the flex of being among the what was
Among
it,
the fittest, yeah.
like 40 fittest athletes in the world. That was always my goal. So it'd be like, I'm going to show that I belong there. Like, even with odds kind of against me, I started late.
Let's roll. Is it Eik or Ike?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's like, I answer to almost anything. I've lived in too many countries, but if you say it like Icelandic people, you'll say Eik.
Eik.
Mm-hmm.
And your last name in Icelandic?
Gylfadottir.
Gylfadottir. Eik. Yeah, that's funny that you said it, because you've been on the other side of podcasting lately.
Mm.
I watched some of your podcasts yesterday evening to get prepared.
Oh yeah, which
Yeah.
ones?
One about getting started,
Mm-hmm.
like what you have to overcome to get started, and the one with Sara and some guy from the, how do you say this?
Dubai, United Arab Emirates.
UAE.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. That's pretty
That's
funny.
really cool. Yeah, that was really cool. Did you resonate with some of the things about getting started? Did that ring true for you with the podcasting and
Mm,
like putting yourself out there?
yeah, for sure. Because for me, it was always like, I'm a photographer in my main gig.
Mm-hmm.
So when I thought about the podcast for years, like 2 or 3 years,
Mm.
and I always thought like, oh, this has to be like free camera angles.
Yeah.
You have to invite the people in the studio. It has to be perfectly lighted, and everything would be high tech. So and then COVID hit, and I was like, so no, fuck this, just get started.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's
And
so
like,
much easier and real if you have people, like with Zoom. It's so easy.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
and I think if I would have to invite you in the studio, it would never happen.
No, and it's like you also get so
Yeah,
limited in terms of like who you can actually talk to because like I don't
exactly. Yeah,
know, I'm currently looking out the window and it's just like green nature and I'm living kind of on the countryside. Like it would be a major operation to try to get someone to come
yeah.
sit down with me. But yeah, that's cool. It's cool. It's
Or
something.
I have to travel everywhere.
This is
That
true.
would
That would be
that would
cool
be
too.
nice, but
Yeah.
but I think really expensive.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
So you moved back to Iceland, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, so been around all kinds of different things. I think like from CrossFit context, most people know that I used to live in Copenhagen, where I
Oh
trained
yeah.
with CrossFit Copenhagen. I lived in Denmark for 9 years, and did my studies. And then I was 7 years in the UAE or in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And now, just recently, I moved back home. It was 15 years of traveling, and now time to
Wow.
return to the roots.
15 years abroad and now coming back. How's that feeling?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you think it was harder moving to a new country and getting settled there, but it's almost harder to move back home because things are not like they used to be. It's like it's a little bit weird, but it's good.
Yeah. I've
Settling.
15 years is a long time. A lot of
Mm,
things changed in that regard. But
definitely.
how old were you when you left Iceland?
Yeah, so when I was 21, I decided to move to Copenhagen and kind of get some further education and stuff. And then I
Yeah.
lingered a little bit longer. And yeah, so from 21 till I'm turning 35 this year.
Wow, and you're getting back. What changed in Iceland?
Everything. Everything. It's
Are there
like
more
almost
people?
half my life. I don't know about more people. There's definitely more foreigners here now than it used to be. Like I
Interesting.
don't, you would never almost bump into anyone who was a different nationality than yourself in Iceland. But now we have a lot of people from all kinds of nationalities.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I wonder why that is. Maybe like the Europeans escape from the political situation.
Possibly.
Wh-
I mean, we have a
wh-
lot of different European nationalities. We also have a lot of people from
yeah,
like the States and Canada. I think it's just like becoming a little bit more hip and cool to live in Iceland. Then COVID made us all realize that we could be anywhere and we can have more space around us. Like if there's anything in Iceland, you have a lot of space around you. Like it's a really big
Yeah.
country with very, very low population. Like you're not living in this like crammed big city life.
Yeah. That's always so crazy when I think about Iceland, that you have like, I don't know how many people live in Iceland. Like, is it over 2 million?
365,000. So it's like a small village anywhere else.
That's ridiculous. And if you I always think about it, okay, they have just like 300K people, but they have some of the most amazing athletes on the globe. So the percentage of athletes compared to the entire population must be insane.
But it's like our favorite word in Iceland is like we have achieved this, which is amazing per capita. Like that's like the like you'll even like little kids say it. They're like, oh, we have the best football players in the world per capita. Like it's really funny. But relative to like other nations that have millions of people that are kind of like, you know, the base of the pyramid, so to say, and then you have the top, which is the top performers. Like we almost turned that pyramid upside down in terms of like having a lot of top performers, both in the business world, not just in CrossFit, like business, football, like we have really good players from a very small, limited resource of people.
Yeah. Why do you think is that? What is different?
I have a theory, and I don't know if this is true. Someone is gonna have to like make some investigations on this, but I think the extreme weather and the months and months and months of like darkness and just like miserableness just teaches people how to be like really mentally tough and resilient, and you know, like that grind just comes really naturally to someone who is like used to having to through generations survive winters kind of thing.
Yeah I guess so. That sounds plausible.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for someone to like actually investigate it. Like, are Icelandic people actually more mentally resilient than others? But you know, that's my theory.
But I find it really interesting. Like if you watch at this in the CrossFit space, in the functional fitness world, it's so interesting for me because you Icelanders have always been around in the sport, like from the beginning, like since Annie showed up, like the daughters and sons showed up at the games and the qualification process. And if you look like countries like Germany, where I live, or Spain, for example, there's so much more people, but it takes so much more long time that athletes rise to the top. Like I think we have the first German male on the games like since 2 years now, Moritz Feibig. But it was like before that, before he made it last year, I was always thinking, so, oh, it's gonna take another 10 years before someone from my country makes it. Like, and then he's all of a sudden made it, and I was like, what the fuck? I didn't saw that coming.
But you know how we all like generalize, we stereotype like some nations, right? So like if you like think of someone from Germany, you would think of someone who is really like precise. It has to be after a procedure, and it has to be done like the right way, and they want to know that there's a proven way before they even attempt to do things. Whereas Icelandic people, they've always just been like, yeah, let's just go all in. Let's just see what happens. Like throw shit at the wall, see what sticks, and you know, maybe it works, maybe it won't. And Icelandic people in general, just a little bit more like risk taking. They're like ready to kind of just like, yeah, you know, give it a go.
That's interesting.
They learned about CrossFit and like Annie, and like they were doing crazy training in the regular global gym, just like the kind of founders of CrossFit, and just testing out different things and just being like, okay, is there a smarter way to do this? Let's just keep trying, as opposed to being like, I will wait until someone has scientifically backed this up, made some clinical studies, and then I will see if I want to try.
I have to talk about that with Moritz, because it makes sense. Like if you look at the Germans, like he had to be like an athlete like Fikowski, who's planning everything and is like analyzing shit. But he's just I'm gonna make this hurt so much. I'm just gonna try to qualify.
That works.
He's
I
not a
mean,
typical German in that way, I think.
no, my favorite thing ever is that I had a German supervisor once, and I wanted to move a
Hmm,
chair, and he had me
okay.
fill out 3 different forms for moving a chair from one apartment to another, and I was like, there must be an easier way. Like, can I
Oh
just move
man.
this chair? But
If you want to move this chair, you have to first fill out form B27 and then
yes,
go into the
exactly.
office to B85.
Yes, handed over to that desk, signed there, and I was like, I just need to move this chair. Like, what the hell?
I just do it. No, you can't do that. But interesting. So the Icelanders are always like they go for it. Did your did your parents and family expect you to be away like 15 years, or did they thought, oh, she's gonna be back and free or four?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm very lucky with like the support network that I have behind me, and I think that's like a really big part of like why I actually got that far in CrossFit as well. Is that no matter what crazy idea that I am just about to start doing, my parents are like, okay, are you safe? Like, can you take care of yourself? Like, do you need financial aid or are you good? Or like they just like kind of like support me in all the crazy stuff that I've done and continue doing.
Yeah, interesting. Have your parents also did sports when they
No, that's like
no?
the joke in the family is that they put all the sports genes just in me. So like they didn't contribute that to the rest of the family. So out of 4 siblings, I'm definitely the only one who does like organized sports and loads of
Oh
it.
wow. You have four siblings. Are they older or
I'm the
younger?
middle one.
The middle one? Okay.
Mhm.
And they don't do any sports at all?
Occasional, not like
Hmm.
competitive.
Yeah. What do they think about your endeavor in the sport?
Yeah, I think they're proud. They're definitely like, especially when I was like qualifying for the games, they were like, "Oh, this is a big thing. She's actually in the local news here in Iceland. This is interesting." But I don't think they really understood it. I don't think a lot of people who are outside of CrossFit understand CrossFit. Like it looks crazy and weird and scary, I think, for most people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was in Berlin for the semis the other week
Yeah.
and I slept at a hostel because every hotel was booked out
Hmm.
in the area. And I had some lawyers from England, from London in my room. And they were asking me, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm going to the CrossFit semifinals. Oh, well, oh, we saw some noble guys. What is this CrossFit? Can you
Yeah.
explain it to us? And I was like, ooh,
Where do I even start? Yeah.
yeah.
It's
If
a
you have to
complicated thing.
describe it for some complete stranger to it, it's difficult. Yeah.
It
And
definitely
even
is.
my friends, they are like, and how do they rank it? Are there like different? What are they doing? Like, they do 7 workouts and this is this for time or for load or both kind of
Yeah,
or at the
sometimes.
same?
And then you also need some skills, and then we
Yeah,
have some really arbitrary rules of who makes it here. Yeah, it's strange. I don't
yeah.
even know how to explain it to
It
people.
is. It is. But if you get it, it's like exciting as hell.
Yeah, that's just true. This is true.
So when did you found it?
I mean, being from Iceland, like I had heard about it when they were competing back in like 2000 and was it 9 or 11 or something.
Hmm.
But it was the 9, I think, was the first CrossFit Games, and like
Yeah,
I'd
really
heard
early.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd heard about some of the things, but then when I was studying in Copenhagen, I got really tired. I had like loads of clients that I was doing programming for, and then I got tired of programming for myself because I used
Hmm.
to like run half marathons and lift heavy weights in the gym and do this and do that, all kinds of different stuff. So I was just like, oh, I'll just, buy this group on offer and go to CrossFit Copenhagen and, train a little bit here, see what this is all about. And that was in 2012, I think. Yeah. Or maybe 2011 to be
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anyone at 11 and 12, didn't they? Did she?
I don't know.
I think so.
Possibly.
I think so. But your first, it was just like, oh, I'm gonna try this out, and
It was basically just because I was lazy and couldn't be bothered to trying to put together a training program for myself. I was like, oh, I will focus on my studies and just do this for a little bit. I think I
what did you
lasted
study?
physiotherapy.
Hmm.
So I'm a personal trainer and a physiotherapist. I was working as a personal trainer and studying as a physiotherapist at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like very active and all of that. But I think I lasted 4 weeks going to regular classes until I was like recruited to the competition team at CrossFit, and I didn't even know you could compete in it. Like I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
what do you mean competing?
that's always my follow-up question. How do you get to, oh, I'm actually good to at this. I want to compete, or
I didn't know. I had no clue that I was good. I was just
you
like
were just
showing up.
recruited.
I was like showing up to these classes, and then I used to teach like Les Mills classes at the time. So that's like you do 4 hours back to back, like with air squats. So
Mhm.
like one of the first classes that I went to, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do this workout, Karen." And I was like, "Just 150 wall balls for a time?" They were like, "Yeah, and you're new, so here's a lighter ball." And then I finished the workout in like 4 minutes, and I just did them unbroken because I had been doing thousands of
The
squats
ball
every
was too
day.
light, sorry.
And they were like, "Yeah, did you finish all the reps?" I was like, "Yeah, I finished all the reps." They're like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "I know how to count to 150. Like it's not rocket science here." And they were like, "Okay." And then they were workouts like this that they were like, "Okay, wait a minute, we're gonna get you to come over here, get you
We're gonna open this back door and there's another
yeah,
room.
yes, exactly."
Awesome. And then how did you like, did that spark the fire for you to oh, there's this games thing. I wanna do that?
Not really, no. I'm
No?
an accidental athlete. Like it was never the
Hmm.
intention to be an athlete. I'm an accidental athlete. I like yeah, from there I did my first open and I didn't even know what the open was. I didn't know half the movements. So like in the first open, they were like, "Yeah, you have to snatch." And I was like, "Okay, what is that?" And then they were like, "Yeah, and there's chest to bars in the next workout." And I was like, "Are you meant to touch the bar with your chest? I don't get it. Like, why would you do that?" So that was my first open. And then even from that same open, I was really upset that I wasn't on the team that went to regionals because I had the best scores out of the women in like 3 out of 5 workouts. So I was really
Yeah.
upset that I wasn't on that team. So next year I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be undoubtedly on the team, which then ended up
Okay.
me qualifying as an individual.
That's crazy.
But I
And what
don't
was
think I
and
don't
did
think
you go
that's something
as
that,
an
that
individual
happens.
or team?
I went as an individual that year.
That's awesome. I'm gonna make that team. Oh, sorry guys, I'm going individual.
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, I don't think that's something that can happen anymore. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
someone who starts the sport today goes in a year to, qualify individually for regionals, as it was called at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are guys who like pretty new to the sport, like who do it only like 2 or 3 years, but that's get more and more like fringe.
Yeah, but like we're talking 12 months, like not two
Yeah.
years of
Yeah,
development.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I think the only way that people come into the sport and kind of do stuff like this in the first 3 years if they have some like very extensive athletic background. Um,
Yeah.
then
And
maybe it's possible.
even then it's like pretty hard these days.
Yeah.
Like I find it so interesting to see this younger generation who grew up with the sport. Like it's the first
Mm.
like generation who really do it like since they're like 12 or I don't know. It's insane for me.
I just always think because I was 24 when I found CrossFit, I'm like, what would it actually look like if I had been doing like the
Yeah.
weightlifting moves since I was a kid? Like
Yeah.
just knowing how to do those moves, like learning a new skill when you're like late 20s as opposed to, you know, anything earlier would have been really cool. I'm kind of jealous. But on the other hand, I also like got to do all kinds of other sports before I did CrossFit, which I do think was very helpful.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's I don't know if that's a problem, but you see like young people like taking a year off or having problems because they're so focused on this sport and they don't like enjoy other things, I think.
Yeah. No, I think it's like I don't know what makes people want to be a CrossFit athlete, But I think a lot of people that like set out with a dream have no clue about what the actual sacrifices are on the other side of
Yeah.
like, okay, I stumbled into this, but then I was also kind of able to pretty quickly start doing the 2 hour workouts twice a day. Like I have a foundation in physiotherapy and I'm a personal trainer, so I know a whole lot about nutrition and recovery and, mobility and all of these things. So I could kind of like navigate my way through making everything into a consistent practice. Whereas I think a lot of people, they're just like, oh, cool, I want all the Instagram followers like
Mm.
Katrin, and I'm just gonna train and, smash myself, and then they
Yeah.
don't get very far with it.
Yeah, that's also interesting for me. What people see in a sport that they want to do that. Like it can't be money. Like it's really hard to earn like significant money in a sport. And if you compare it to, I don't know if you can compare it to like other sports like soccer or something, it's basically the same as to come on top. But yeah, I always wonder what the fascination with it is.
I have no clue. Like I said, accidental athlete. I just like chase the ball for a little bit, and then I kind of like, with my values and so on, I feel like the CrossFit Games have kind of like played themselves out with just constantly changing the rules and just being very inconsistent with kind of their attitude towards the athletes that are putting in all the work and making the name for their brand. I find them
Yeah.
just not really being super helpful. So I kind of just like put it on the shelf. But I think, you know, I can't only speak for myself, but it was kind of like the flex of being among the, what was
Among
it,
the fittest, yeah.
like 40 fittest athletes in the world. That was always my goal. So it would be like, I am going to show that I belong there. Like, even with odds kind of against me, I started late. I was super, like, I was one of the lightest athletes to compete at the games, like at 56, 58 kilos. Like,
Yeah.
so I felt like a little bit of like an underdog. I was like, I'm going to prove that you don't have to be genetically super gifted, stacked, muscular person. I was kind of just like the little guy, um, which was fun. But I think ultimately it was kind of like the flex of being amongst those people that attracted me to it, at least.
Yeah. Is it a like how is that group of people? Is that a different kind of breed?
I mean, like CrossFitters are a different kind of a breed. But even just if you walk into a normal CrossFit gym, it doesn't matter if it's in Dubai or in Reykjavik, like what you're gonna find are like these like selective groups of like kind of A-type personalities that are just in there and they dream of doing a muscle up, which is a completely useless skill for an accountant. But there's like, yeah, like I'm
That's
gonna
true.
invest a lot of money and I'm gonna invest so much time and I'm gonna get that muscle up. Like, how is that helping you with your accountant life? But like there is a selective breed that just like is into that, like learning new things and constantly like challenging their own physical and mental abilities. So the CrossFit athletes, to answer your questions, are just like a little bit more hyper versions of those crazy people.
I'm trying to I try to imagine a life or death situation where you could use a muscle up. Maybe
I
you're
mean,
standing on a cliff and there are some rings from the heavens and the
yeah.
cliff is collapsing.
Or I mean, if you're trying, if what's it called in Titanic knew how to do a muscle up, he would have gotten himself onto the ramp, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that situation, I don't know,
Maybe it could show up, but yeah.
could have changed Titanic's outcome.
Rope climb would be a more realistic
Definitely,
situation.
that is a life and death matter.
Muscle up. I'm trying. What do you think is the stupidest movement in that regard?
I don't think there's any stupid movements. I think challenging yourself to do all kinds of different things is smart. Like just to like keep your brain moving. So like as
Yeah.
a someone who studied to be an osteopath, like we have like the fundamentals of like use it or lose it. So the like when people are like, oh, I can't learn new things, I'm old. No, you can't learn new things because you
Yeah.
don't try to learn new things regularly. So I definitely think that, you know, new skills, new movements, connecting the dots in different ways is a smart way to kind of, you know, keep yourself young on the inside. But I
Of course.
usually refer to all these skills like the muscle up complex and the wall facing handstand push-ups as like skills that don't pay the bills.
Hmm.
So it's like, oh yeah, what are you doing today? Yeah, I'm gonna, you know, unlock some skills that won't pay the bills at any point. I'm just gonna play around with it.
So muscle up is the least live or dead movement, the least usable for life death situations.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. Depends. Wall facing handstand push-ups is the
yeah,
silliest one of them all.
yeah, it could be true.
I don't know.
Handstand walk is, if you cut off your legs and you just want to run away, handstand walk is useful.
Yeah, but wall facing handstand push-ups.
Yeah, yeah, doesn't make really sense. I can't see that in any situation.
Not yet.
But that's really interesting. Yeah, I think that's really true. Like connecting the dots, doing new things, always like learning stuff. But you kind of said it a little bit. Do you think the game stuff is getting a little bit too gimmicky these days?
I don't know.
Like with all this gymnastic stuff coming up, like making things harder in that regard. I get it. Like they say, okay, we're decent at weightlifting, we're decent in like conditioning stuff, but we're not really good in any gymnastics movements. Do you think
I
it's too like, yeah, what is this actually?
I just always, and this is like can depend so much on the people, like the person, but I think it's something really cool with seeing someone that you look up to, whether it's a CrossFit athlete or whatever, do something that you can do too, uncommonly well. So, for example, if you look at someone who, like, let's just take Amanda because we're talking about muscle ups and snatches. Like, it takes the average person a really long time to get through 9, 7, 5 muscle ups and snatches. Everyone can do them, maybe with a little bit lighter weight, you know, maybe it's one muscle up at a time or whatever. But like if you're good at CrossFit, you can do it. And then, you know, you look at someone else who does them pretty much unbroken and they do them in less than 3 minutes. That's really cool. Whereas when you start throwing like more and more stuff and like equipment that's not available to the population, like everyone is now doing echo bikes instead of assault bikes, and we have to do it with a rock, not a weight vest, and we have to do it like this. You lose the ability for someone who is just in the gym to compare themselves
Mm.
with the cool people. So you kind
Yeah,
of made the distance between, you know, yourself feeling motivated by it, you kind of made it unapproachable. It's like the elite of the elites, they only get to play with these toys, and it's you know, what is it, $300 equipment on only sold on a rogue website. You can't order it in Europe. Like
yeah,
that's just not really cool anymore.
yeah. I see that. Like even for me, it was like the double under crossover
Yeah,
that frustrated the hell out of me, and I was like, what the fuck?
but then again, that's something that you can practice with the
Yeah,
common tools. So you now,
and
okay,
you can get to that level. Yeah,
yeah,
true.
we raised the bar, but we haven't made it unapproachable. Whereas like the
Yeah,
handstand, the walk ramp, and the backpack. Like I'm just talking about like when you add elements into it that are not approachable by the
yeah.
Gen Pop. That's when you
Which you
kind of
have to
like
buy. Yeah,
separate. I mean, it's a really smart marketing strategy, which it is. They are actually collaborating with people and they get revenue shares on the sold product. So like it
yeah,
is a marketing thing, but I don't feel like that's very good for the sport and for us as that are like
yeah.
both fans and practitioners of the sport.
And even for the yeah, and from that point, I get it. But even for the spectators, like,
Yeah.
have you watched the semis at all?
Yeah, I watched some of it, yeah.
Yeah, like the back-to-back workouts with the runner, the assault runner, and the snatches. Like I
Yeah.
think 80% of the workout is so boring to watch because you have no idea who's in front, who's gonna pass
Mm.
each other. It's so boring.
But
Like,
I mean, if you look at, for example, the Olympics in weightlifting, they
mm,
always have 3 attempts on 2 lifts. Nothing has changed since, okay, they changed the weight categories a couple of years ago.
Since ages, yeah.
Yeah, but people still come. It's still a televised sport. It actually has showtime on like actual channels, and people still love to watch it. Okay, the marathon at the Olympics, it's always 42.125 kilometers. We still watch it. Some people watch the entire race because they're like, oh my God, that guy, he's running faster than I ever could run 400 meters for 42 kilometers. So I don't think you need to necessarily invent the wheel every single time to create more spectators. I think we can actually just like do the common uncommonly well and think that that's really cool.
Yeah, I just don't like the assault runner in a competition. Like, I think it's so boring to watch. I want to see the guys like passing each other, like sprinting to the finish. Yeah, they have a little finish, but come on. I want to see the guys like walking around the track. It would be so much more fun watching that events on a track.
Like, yeah, this is true. I would also prefer running on a track because it's a completely different skill to run on an assault runner.
It is, yeah. And in Europe, there was this whole controversy about the lane 8. Like Singleton like did some math, and the assault runner at lane 8 was basically like 7 seconds slower than all the others, and I was like, okay. I didn't even thought about it. But
I mean,
of course, the machines.
But this is not a first time. Like the concept 2s tend to be a little bit better with this, but like if you go on an assault bike, every gym that has more than one assault bike will know which assault bike is the good one and which one are not the good one. And every gym that has more than one assault runner will also know the specific numbers of the one that count better than the other ones. And this is the major issue with like using these as like benchmarks in competitions.
Because it's not an even playing field. Like,
no, like legitimately not.
Have you watched the European semi?
I watched some of it. I didn't watch all the events, and definitely not all the heats. There was a lot of them.
Yeah, I was there. I watched everything. It was exhausting, but also really fun. What do you think from your impressions? Was going bigger better? Like having 60 athletes and one semi-final for entire Europe. Was this better, or was the 2 semis more enjoyable for you?
Like as an athlete, like it's way cooler to be a big fish in a small pond. So being 1 out of 30 athletes, so you're half decent if you're in the second heat kind of thing. Whereas like with the 6 heats, I think from an athlete perspective, if I'd been competing and like also just looking at it from like where I am at in my athletic career, if I'd made it to semis, I would have been in like the one of the first heats. That probably wouldn't have been as cool of an experience as like being almost close to the guys that you look up to. But I think from like a competitive standpoint, when it comes to delivering the best athletes onward to the games, I do think that the deeper field, or like having more points that you're going to tumble down if you fuck up, is a better way to kind of really test the capacity of the athletes.
Yeah, interesting.
And I mean, it's always been a little bit sad, at least the last couple of years when it's been like divided, the Europe region. You would be like competing at the separate, like I was competing with Sara last year, but like then some of the other athletes that were from the UAE were also like Evie Hollis, she was competing over in strength and depth. So it's kind of like, like usually the competitions also as an accidental athlete that wasn't necessarily always there to just like crush it. Like I just really enjoy going to the competitions and seeing everyone that you don't see the rest of the year. It's kind of like your Instagram comes to life. Like it's a really cool experience to just go and hang out with all your mates that like to do the crazy stuff like you do.
Yeah.
And then it was a little bit sad that the other European athletes were further away.
How did they actually divide that stuff?
I don't know how they did it. I don't ask questions. It was it felt random.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking, but does it make sense? Yeah, I think it was a fun event, like being there and watching it, but they didn't show like they didn't broadcast like 2 events. the long ones, like Linda and the first one. They didn't show that on the broadcast, and I was like, if I would have watched it at home, I think it wouldn't be that fun, because the other semis weren't that much fun watching it, like the American ones. And I think at Torian they showed everything, but yeah. Any surprises or favorite moments from that semi?
From the semifinals?
Yeah.
I just didn't follow it closely enough, I think, to really know. I think, yeah. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. And are you retired or are you coming back?
I am probably more or less retired, not from doing CrossFit, but from like actually competing in CrossFit. I took another season last year to try to see if I actually wanted to continue doing it, because like I said, there's a lot of sacrifices that are needed in order to kind of keep up and stay at that level.
Yeah.
And I could kind of like after last season just say pretty honestly, I was like, these sacrifices no longer are worth the benefits that you actually get from this. So I'm not done competing, but I think I might be done competing at that like top level.
So last year, 22, you went to the lowlands, didn't you?
Yep.
I think your finish was like 22nd or 21st.
Yeah, I think my goal in going into
Something
it
like
was to
that.
be like around middle pack. I finished like a little bit lower than that. I had some stuff like outside of my control, which was judges' issues on the weekend, and then came a little bit short of my goal. But overall, kind of just like happy with my performance. But like I said, it's just like the actual effort of being at that level versus the things that you get from it were kind of no longer adding up for me.
Yeah, sure. What did you get from it? Like, what was the main thing? Was it this, like, to be in that 40 people pack, or what was the main benefit you took out of it?
I think so. Like I've always been like a little bit of a freak. Like I love to run really like fast, and I would be like running fast and lifting heavy. So like my goals, like long before I started CrossFit, was to run, the Cooper test, to do more than 3 kilometers in a Cooper test and be able to squat 100 kilos. Like that was my goals, like for the longest time, and that was way before I knew what CrossFit was. So I think my kind of thing was to be up among those top 40 athletes, because it was 40 athletes that went to the games into like before 2018, 2019, before 2019. 2019 was the national champion. So before 2019, there was an exclusive group of 40 people that went to the games. So I was like, okay, I want to be one of those people that actually can make it to there. So that was definitely like the goal. And then obviously, first of all, I achieved that twice. And then secondly, like they changed the format completely. So now, depending on which passport you have better opportunities. Like it's not about your athleticism anymore. It's like which nationality passport and your residency. So yeah, like I achieved what I wanted to with CrossFit. And then after that, it's just for me personally, because of my motivation, it's kind of gone downhill.
Interesting. That's such an interesting perspective. Like, yeah, really interesting. That changed your view of it. Interesting.
I mean, it just depends on what your goal is. Like, if your goal is to be
Yeah.
the best in the world, which was never my goal. Like, I wanted to be among those 40 people and prove that I belonged there, but I didn't necessarily like. I've never been like a fierce competitor. Like, it doesn't even, not even a little bit. But if your goal is to be, to go to the games, then you can achieve that now. Just make sure you're born in the right country and have the right passport.
Yeah. I'm just gonna move to South Africa.
It is not enough to move to South Africa. You have to have a South African
Yeah.
passport.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but they changed the rules so much. I don't know. Maybe it's completely different next year too. Again.
Yeah, yeah, it probably will. So maybe next year I'll feel motivated again, and then I come out through
Yeah,
retirement.
that would be fun.
Yeah,
I would love to
inshallah.
see that.
We'll see.
What really interests me, I don't know if that's fitting into that now, but I watched your own podcast with Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
and you called her a role model.
Cheers.
Yeah, but I was asking myself, how is that? Like you said, you're an accidentally athlete,
Mm-hmm.
but how is that like when you're born in Iceland with all these, especially on the women's side, with this like three Mount Rushmore grades of the sport? Is that as an athlete coming after these, is that like, oh, I'm always in the shadow of these guys, or is that
No,
motivating?
definitely not. And like the funny thing is that me and Sarah, we were rising as athletes around the same time.
Mm,
But I've never ever ever felt like I was neither in the shadow of Annie or Sarah. Like we just kind of like are doing our own thing. Like each person has their own journey, and I think like a lot of is okay. You know the 400. What is it? The sub something 400. No, sub 4 minute mile.
mhm.
Yeah, you know the story behind the sub four
Yeah,
minute mile. Yeah,
someone has to
people.
do it. So
Yes. So then the others believe it can be done, and then they do it
yeah.
too. And that's kind of like, people now that I've worked for so long in the Middle East, girls don't look at me and say, I'm like her, I'm gonna go to the games. The girls, they will look at someone like them that, is from a similar region, from a similar cultural background that can achieve it, and then they'll start achieving it. So when we say like role model, like I know Sarah's upbringing. We are originate, like my family comes from the same town where Sarah is from.
Mm.
So in that sense, like I know what kind of like a cultural athletic background she had, and just like going through normal PE classes and you know not being an athlete until later in life, like that story resonates with me and that motivates me because I wasn't an athlete when I was a kid. Like I did occasional sports. And I think like our role models, it's someone that we like can mirror our own experience in, and we can see that they have achieved something coming from the similar kind of situation or with similar values or mentality or background or whatever.
Did you know about them when you accidentally made it to the games? Or were you like, oh, there are other Icelandic people here?
No, I knew about them. And like because as soon as you like become, I say it was accidental, but like you know, uh, to become a really good competitor, you have to compete a lot. So like I competed at the Icelandic Championships in 2013, I think. Then I competed with all the girls. They had no clue who I was. Like coming from Denmark, no one had ever seen me do CrossFit. Like why the hell was I in the best heat? And then I don't know if they ever felt intimidated by me. You have to ask them. Uh, but we got to know them back when everyone was kind of like just working on improving themselves. Only one who had won the games at that point was Annie.
Yeah. And then came Katrin and yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think Sarah is do you think she will come back from that moment at the semis? I don't
Which
know if you
moment are
watch
you
it.
thinking about?
At the crash and burn at the rope climbs.
Yeah, I mean, depends how she tackles it. I mean, you listen to the podcast with Sarah, she takes every weakness that she has and dissects it and makes a plan on how she's going to get better.
Yeah.
She has never again in a workout failed a handstand push-up after that was what costed her the first place. So I don't think like a one off
Yeah.
mishap or a burnout in a workout is something that defines her as an athlete. She's definitely the
Yeah.
comeback type. So it won't be that.
I don't think she's done. I think that's only motivating for her. But was it really like it was a insane moment at the venue
Yeah,
because
yeah.
because I don't know how it feels for you athletes, but the stands, like the crowd, the people, they have they have their favorites,
Yeah.
and because because Sara is competing so long. She's clearly a
She is a crowd
favorite.
favorite. She's a
Yeah,
sweetheart.
you
She's a
can see
favorite,
that.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
everybody wants that she does well. Like, you know. And at that workout, you could see it. She wanted to really smash it and make it happen to get into the qualifying spots. And then she totally crashed and burned. And that was such a vulnerable moment. But also the crowd was so like
devastated for her.
Yeah, everyone was a fuck, but she tried. Let's cheer her on.
Yeah,
and it was such a like
exactly. But the thing is, like, I've come into regionals weekend. So 2017, I was a favorite for qualifying to the games. Came into the weekend with a little bit of a cold. To say that I completely fried myself in the first event, which was like the ideal event for me. Like if someone had written a workout that was meant to be really good for me, it would have been the first workout in 2017. But I came into the weekend feeling sick, and I fried myself so badly, like is in terms of like push the intensity so hard that I was struggling with both my heart rate and overtraining from that singular event for about 6 months after.
Wow.
So yeah. So, you know, when you walk into a weekend like this, like Sara, and this is the same for all the athletes, and this is something that both Thuri has been putting on her social media this week, and Emma McQuaid has also put on her socials, is like the amount of pressure that relies on this one singular time in the space of a year, this one weekend. Let's just say that you know, catch COVID, like you're out. Let's just say that, okay, it's not COVID, but you're feeling a little bit under the weather. And we all do that all the time. Or for women, let's just say it's not the right time of the month for you. Like this is actually where you're just not very strong or feeling very endurant. You don't process carbs very well. Like you can literally stuff that, and I know Sara has tested this workout out before. She knew the pace she was going into that workout with. She decided to push that pace a little bit. And as we all know, when the grip is gone, the grip is gone, and it's not coming back in the next day or two. So, you know, it can just be like a series of unfortunate events that can make or break your kind of season.
Yeah. That's also like really insane for me if you think about it. Like all these qualifications, in all the steps, like open, now quarterfinals and semifinals, if you have a bad weekend or you catch something, like you said, your season is over.
Yeah. I hope you're allowed to swear on this podcast, but like you're absolutely like you're screwed. You won't be able to recover from it. And you know, CrossFit is probably also one of the sports, of the elite sports, that has the longest standing on season. So from middle of February until end of August, if you're a CrossFit Games athlete, this is your season. That's 8 months of the year. You have 2 months to recover, and then you're back again in full competition mode. And during the off season is the actual
there's Dubai, there's Miami, there's Madrid.
And I'm just going to quickly call them the money making on season for the athletes. So there is actually no time to recover. There's no time to, you know, chill a little bit with your mates, you know, be allowed to have that extra dessert and refined sugars in your diet. Like you actually, if you want to be one of the best, you are on season 12 months of the year.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's a lot.
Like I had Andre Uday on, and he was basically saying, he explaining that to me, and he was like, I'm going team this year so I can be better next year.
Yeah. But that's what
so
I did.
I have a off season going team.
Yeah. But that's what I did in 2016. So to take some of the pressure off, then I competed with the CrossFit Northwest, and we went to the games. So that was my kind of off season and like training in preparation for 17, 18.
And then you had like a fever or something in 17. That must have been sucked.
Yeah, exactly. And that was an entire 2 years of preparation to make it to the games that went out the window there in the first event.
Yeah. But how good are you in like letting things go?
Not good at all. I'm obsessive. Like, don't you have to be? I think that's a normal.
Yeah, I think so. I was just asking myself because you how long have you been competing now?
I mean, this was my 10th open. I forgot to submit some scores,
Mm.
and I was like packing my container at the same time. So,
Yeah,
I don't know if I can count this
10
as my
years.
open, but that was my
10
10th year.
years.
Yeah.
Do you have any like, is there some conflict in you, like letting that stuff like go?
No, not really. I'm like one of these athletes. Like, if you ask me, like, what time did you get in a workout? I have no clue. Like, there's not a lot of. They're like, oh, have you done this workout before? I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is why I need like a what up where I track my logs and scores. Like,
Yeah.
I have no clue what my PR and stats is. I don't know numbers. Like, it's just not really
Hmm.
relevant to me. So, like in that sense, no, I'm not obsessive about those type of things. But I definitely, when it comes to like you know that feeling of having done everything that you could, but there were things outside of your circumstances that kind of knock you out of a qualifying spot. That's definitely something that sits with me for a long time in terms of like, okay, how can I prepare so that I can do it better? I'm very kind of like result oriented in that sense, in like what do I need to do to improve this.
Interesting. So what's your snatch PR?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Especially not now.
Man, how do you celebrate these things then?
I
You just
don't.
don't?
No. Plus, like, it doesn't matter what your snatch PR is in the gym because, in a competition in Dubai, you have to run 10 kilometers in the desert with a sandbag before you get to snatch.
And then
It's never going
snatch,
to be
yeah.
the same. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, what ideally would I want to hit on this day relative to the things that I've actually been through? And then,
Yeah.
turns out that snatching and then you just go by feel. So the warm up felt good. I'm going to open at this weight, and I'm going to give myself the opportunity to try that and that weight, um, and see which one I get. Like, I don't really go, oh, today my ultimate best is 80 kilos, so today I'm going to try to hit 97% of that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you have to kind of go by feel, but still push your
Yeah.
limits.
Hmm. Have you done that workout like in Dubai, running through the desert?
Yeah, I've done it. I've
Oh
competed.
man.
What was it? I've done 5 years in a row in Dubai. So I did
Oh man.
2016 and all the way through. I competed last year, 2022.
Was that the most insane workout you ever did?
No, rowing a marathon was.
Oh man, the marathon row. That was horrible.
That's the only one I can tell you the actual workout because it definitely stuck with me. What the actual workout was. It was
Oof. Yeah, but that run through the desert in Dubai, I watched it on a screen. I was like,
I love
someone's
running.
gonna
Okay,
someone's gonna die.
I used to do this for fun. Like, I lived in Dubai now for 7 years, and like I used to go to
Yeah.
the desert and run for fun. So like I was like, yeah, cool, bring it on. That sounds nice.
Was that why did you move to Dubai? That's also
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, after I came back from the 2016 games where I went with the team, I had an invitation in my inbox on to come and work in Abu Dhabi,
Hmm.
and I was like, Abu Dhabi, where is that? I don't even know where it is. And I looked it up on the map, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that. Why not?
Interesting. Because I find that interesting from a and I wonder what your thoughts about that is or your experiences. I spent a lot of time during my studies in photography with the combination of women and strengths,
Mm.
like how that changes over the years, and in combination with like media with photography and stuff, how that's displayed. And and I think like in Iceland, this this cultural thing that a woman can be strong and can have muscles is like really like
It's
appreciated in the
allowed.
public.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there really upfront in that kind of sense. How was that different in Abu Dhabi, and what do you think about that?
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like, one of the main reasons why I wanted to move to Abu Dhabi is because it is a Muslim country, and it is like
Hmm.
women are covered and it's other cultural social norms. I don't know like what the status is now in Europe because I haven't lived in Europe for the past 7 years, but when I was living in Denmark, in 2016. There was like right after the Mohammed drawings. I don't know if you know, that was like a really big thing that you're not allowed to, draw Mohammed in the newspaper. And there was just a lot of negative stuff about Muslims, about Islam in general. And I was like, okay, I wonder if it's actually like this from the other side. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, well, what is
Yeah.
it actually like? Okay, this is all the bad stuff that's about it, but like, what does it actually feel like and look like when you're on the other side of it? And I mean, the thing about, you know, bodies and culture and how sport plays out through your, norms that you grow up with in society, like Abu Dhabi is a couple of years behind. You have people that have never really done a lot of PE. Like it's still a thing that like you don't have to do sports if you have your periods. Like you don't really have to do anything if you have your period. Which obviously in Scandinavia now is like suck it up. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
whine about it, it's a quarter of your life. So like if you
Yeah.
wanna be really upset about it, like be kind to yourself, but at the same time, like this is not an illness. Like you can move on with your day. And I find like in the past 7 years that I've been in the UAE, like girls start coming more to the gym. There are more ladies only
Mm.
facilities. Like it's like looked up to be strong. It's looked up to eat healthy, to do all these things. And like now that I was working just before I moved, like I'm still working with CrossFit Alliance. Like we have an amazing women's only community. The girls are working on getting stronger. They're working on building muscles. They want to have a muscular back. Like they do it for themselves. I don't know if you've seen the Sex and the City one where they're like all covered and then they have like all the Gucci underneath. That's
Yeah.
100% true. So like it's not for someone else. So like you won't see it in photography because no one is
Yeah.
going to be taking photos of it because
Mm.
there's a really big fine in the UAE for taking photos of someone who covers. So they will be doing it for themselves and for their close community. And I see like role models again within each community. They look up to the other girls that have achieved the things that they want to do. They don't necessarily look up to, us other white girls and coaches. If
Mm. Interesting. That like it's getting in a better direction then.
Yeah, definitely.
Is
And I
it?
mean, but that's the thing, like, and then you're like, okay, maybe that's only in the CrossFit boxes. Like, I have no clue what happens in the rest of
Yeah.
the society around it. Like, that's very difficult to say anything about.
Yeah,
Um,
we are in such a bubble, man.
yeah, definitely.
It's crazy. Like, but is it like are there also classes with men and women together, or is it just women only and men only?
Um, so I mean, women can attend any classes. So the classes are called mixed and ladies only.
Mhm.
So mixed classes will be anyone who wants to join that class, and mixed classes will also have women who like to cover. So they will then, cover their
Okay.
hair, wear loose pants, whatever is appropriate to them culturally. But there's no men allowed inside the facility while there's a ladies only class, so the women then can wear regular gym stuff and free their
Okay.
arms and not wear out with
Yeah.
the work out with the hijab, as there's no
Yeah.
men's present.
Do you see like a lot of women like attending the mixed class, or is it just everyone goes to the women only?
I think there's more and more, and I mean, you know but that's just like even here in Iceland, like a lot of women prefer not to go to mixed classes. Like they like to go
Hmm.
to women's only facilities. And I think like those who want to kind of push their limits, and you'll see the ones that are kind of like uh, I don't know how to explain it. It's like your own personal values. Like if you value being really like pushed in that way, you prefer to go to the mixed classes. But then if you kind of prefer more the comfort and the kind of like the social aspect of it with the other girls, you go to the ladies' gym. So like I think it just kind of depends on uh yeah, both your cultural norms, maybe your family's norms as well. I don't know. I can't speak for all the girls, but you can kind of just decide what's the best fit for you.
Interesting. Yeah. And what made you move back to Iceland then?
Yeah, so I mean, 15 years away. That was either you start to reside somewhere and you actually like make your life there, or you start looking back towards home. For me, family is really, really important, and I don't know how much of like value work you do with your kind of business and stuff, but you know, it's weird to have something that's your number two priority on your list of important things, but you spend less than 2 weeks with them every year. So for me, it was kind of just like living more aligned with what I actually say is important to me. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, Iceland is pretty cool with inflation everywhere and everywhere getting more expensive. Then it's really cool to live somewhere where they actually take care of making sure that your salary and the inflation go hand in hand. That's I recommend that to people.
They really do that in Iceland? Oh, maybe that's the reason why everyone is moving there.
I mean, if you
That is
ask
the reason.
Icelandic people, they'll tell you that they're not doing a very good job at it. But if you look at it relative to, for example, the Wild West of the salary
Yeah.
increases in Dubai, where there is no one who is fending for your own kind of race to match up with inflation, then yeah, I would say Icelandic people are
They
pretty
don't
well
do it
taken
here
care
in
of.
Germany. Like,
No,
no. I think, yeah, in some degrees, like we have like in Germany, we have unions
yeah,
for everything, and they like made what is a strike in English? Is it
yeah,
strike?
strike, yeah.
Strike. Yeah, there's everyone was striking until they get like 10% more or whatever.
Yeah, but
But
that's
if
matching inflation. That is what
yeah,
it's called. Yeah,
but it's only in some kind of industries. Like if you
yeah.
work as a freelancer, you're basically fucked. Like of course you can
But then
like
you're in the same as, but imagine like the UAE is all freelancers
oh
according
yeah,
to this standard. Yeah. So
yeah,
no one is going to raise the salary of anyone. And you
yeah,
as a freelancer, you have the chance to be able to put your rates up actually
yeah,
according to inflation, which is recommended. You know, any freelancer should be putting the rates up with like 5 to 10% per year because both you get more knowledge and you have to match inflation.
yeah.
Um,
But you have to do
but
that. You have to
yes, but
get
you have to
booked.
do it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. But
Why are
if
you more
all,
expensive?
but that's
Because
why
of
all,
inflation. We don't pay.
but that's why there's unions because then all the photographers they gathered together
Yeah.
and said we were all going to increase our rates with 5 to 10
Yeah.
percent each year. But I mean, yeah, I think at some point with the current world situation and all of that that's going on and my own personal values, it was time to move home to
Cool.
go closer to the family.
And what are you up to? Do you have any like projects going on or what?
Oh, so many. Which ones do you want to know about? No,
All of them. No.
yeah, I run a company that's called Building Thriving Lifestyle. So that's my coaching business. I do help people achieve big goals with a compassionate approach. So kind of using all the stuff that I learned through competitive CrossFit and through my physiotherapy lens. So kind of helping
Mhm.
people break down those big goals, make them into something that's achievable here and now, and a part of a bigger picture, which is to live a better life. I also do consulting for businesses. So just like when you're talking about like increasing your rates and stuff, I do a lot of consulting with freelance, mostly personal trainers, but it can technically be anyone who is doing freelance in terms of like how to make themselves a
Mhm.
little bit more recognized as a brand, being a little bit more cohesive. And I kind of like to help people make it a little bit more legitimized. I don't know if you like know from your freelancing, like some people they're like, yeah, I'm a freelancer. They're like, oh, do you have a website? No. Do you have can I book you? They're like, no. They're like, okay, but what about a contract? Okay, a terms and conditions to your service. And they're like, no, I don't have any of that. So I kind of help people make their businesses, whatever they're selling, whether it's coaching or a product or intellectual product, to make it a little bit more legitimized. So they actually have something to show for it. It looks a little bit more professional.
Cool.
Um, yeah. And then I'm just getting settled at home. Like moving between countries is a big thing. I don't recommend it to anyone unless you really want to.
How long is a flight from Abu Dhabi
Oh,
to
mate.
Iceland?
The flight is, I mean, no direct flights. You have to stop usually through Germany, but
Oh, really?
so it's like a 8 hour and then layover and then a 3 hour, so like 17 to 24 hour trip.
Wow. Did you stop in Frankfurt?
When I flew home, because I took my dog with me, I had to fly KLM through Amsterdam this time.
Mm. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Did you have to put the dog in a like cabin in the back of the plane, or was
Yeah,
he
they
on the
go in
seat
their.
with you?
No, he's too big. They have to be under 8 kilos to go in the plane.
Oh,
So he had to go in the
that's the
holds.
rule.
Mm.
That's the rule. That's really insane. If you like, some years ago, I did a project with a friend of mine at the Frankfurt airport. Like we did a photography project for a hotel in that area, and they gave us free access at the entire airport, and
Hmm.
it's insane. Like it's insane, and they have this hangar
Hmm.
where they put all the animals which
Yep.
flying. They like if you're on a transition flight, they put it in the hangar and then into another plane. And
Yep.
we went into that hangar and there were giraffes and stuff. It
Yep.
was insane. Like
Yep.
we're like, how do you fly a giraffe in a plane?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, not a problem. Just
it
put them in
was
a.
bizarre. It was bizarre.
I mean, there's a lot of like, first of all, there's a lot of rules of traveling with animals,
Yeah,
and you're like, why is it all so complicated? But then when you see that end of it, I guess you understand why it's also
yeah.
complicated.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that was insane. We're like, well, what is that? The animal shelter. Okay, let's see what is inside.
yeah.
Giraffe.
What?
Oh man, 22 hours. Wow. Yeah,
It's
hey,
a long one.
thank you for being on the show. That was really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Hope you
I'm
get
gonna
some
put
value of it.